My name is Donna Brookman, and I was in the initial exhibit that Jeff put together, the Time and Place exhibit, showing a group of big Palace of Memory paintings, the big dark paintings on the long wall. And they have their roots in the prints I was doing before that, one of which is in this fundraiser, also called the Palace of Memory. And it's actually a window into process that I think is kind of interesting because it is so indirect. It's so, the work actually began when I had an opportunity to spend a week in a cabin by the Truckee River. And every day I went and sat by the water and drew the moving water, just in a notebook, just line drawings. I'm very interested in movement and in energy and coalescing energy and dispersing energy and all of those things. And it was a tremendous meditation exercise, really, to try to draw moving water. I mean, it's going very fast and you're, you know. Anyway, I came back with 90 drawings from that week. And I had been invited to do some sort of digital project at Magnolia Editions. And I thought I would love to put some of the drawings together into river scrolls, long river scrolls. And so I made transparencies out of them and I assembled them into this long form, incorporating, I think it was at least 60 or so of them. It was a lot of drawings and layering them. Very complicated, but you know, they have these big computers and these big printers and they can do all this stuff. So the first part of the project was the long river scrolls. And when I was in the midst of doing those, I read a review of a music composition, actually, John Luther Adams, called Become Ocean. And it was described as a palindrome structurally, so symmetrical, basically a symmetrical form, rising and falling. And I thought, here I'm working on these big computers, I could do this, right? I could flip it. And so I went in and I said, let's try flipping it and then starting to overlap like this, okay? So, and then the form became this kind of complex fountain-like form, which was really, really interesting to me. And so that was a discovery, right? Because all of a sudden, when you're working with symmetry, it has an entirely different set of associations with it. You associate it with biology, you associate it with all kinds of forms, living forms versus dispersed forms in nature. So the fountain, a man-made form, but also a form that suggests the body as well. And then I started playing with reversing it so that instead of white lines, black lines on white, it was white lines on black, which had a more ephemeral kind of quality to it. And so that was how that began. And that was the first time I'd ever really worked with symmetry as content. And that was really fascinating to me. And it also led me into waterfalls as imagery or fountains or whatever. And you see a lot of that play out in the Palace of Memory paintings that were in that first exhibit. But the genesis of a lot of that content was in this group of prints. You can see behind me work that I've been doing during the pandemic, which is very related to what I was doing with the Palace of Memory in terms of the gestures and the coalescing of lines into a form. But obviously starting with a white ground rather than a black ground, working with more color. Also having an element, I've been looking at a lot of tantric art, and it has a meditation form in the midst of chaos. And I feel as though right now, things are so dispersed and there's so much possibility out there. There's a lot of possibility right now. But we also need to be able to hold the level of chaos that's going on. So they have become, in effect, meditation objects that I think you can see over my shoulder there, the ones that have these forms floating in a sort of chaotic, but space, but also space with potential. It has color, it has light. So that's what's happening right now.